do I always feel uncomfortable whenever I'm sitting down for a podcast? I could be like sitting at my desk and I'm perfectly fine.
Probably because you lean so far back
Probably.
in that chair. Here, I'm gonna lock it. So
You know what? I know what it is. It's this chair. This chair is just uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's not a great chair.
It's also like 20 years old.
No, this is the one Ethan bought, so it's like 5 years old.
There's no way.
It's from Walmart.
I could have sworn we were using this chair in that corner playing on the computer a decade ago.
That chair is upstairs.
Are you serious?
We do still have it. It's in way worse condition than that, but yeah.
What? Just throw it away.
I mean, it's a chair. I never use it, but Poppy thinks that it's fine.
Well, so long as he thinks it's fine, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I think he's like the only person who uses it. Welcome back, guys, to the podcast. It's kind of been a while. I think I'm going to edit this tonight, so there shouldn't be a gap
oh my gosh.
for the viewers. But for us, we haven't recorded in a while because last week I was sick, and I've been super busy and just have not gotten a chance to record very much. So, but that's how January tends to go, It's the month of just not going to plan at all.
That's why, like, the holiday season is always very stressful for me.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, cool, Thanksgiving, love Thanksgiving. All right, cool, Christmas, love Christmas.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, it's like, all right, New Year's, boo. I don't know anyone that actually is excited about New Year's.
No, usually it's just
I'm indifferent to it. I don't care.
Like, I enjoy New Year's parties.
Yeah, that's fine. But I just mean, like, the whole celebration of a new year, it's like, I don't care.
It's like, okay, well, time to get back on the grind.
Yeah, it's always just like, all right, get back on that horse. You're going to go.
Yeah.
But then it's like, immediately what's going to happen after that. You have to get back in the swing of getting to work. Bad weather is affecting the roads to where it's like, it's not even worth going to work. Combine that with tax season coming up, looming over your head.
Flu season.
You have to re-register your vehicle because for whatever reason the government cares about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I kind of know why.
Property tax.
Well, it's not just that. That's part of it for sure. Yeah. But I'm sure a lot of it has to do with like the police being like, hey, we need to know who owns what. So then if someone's driving this, we're able to be like, hey, this is a stolen vehicle.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, that is a practical thing that I understand. Thanks. That's something that's like maybe the only government thing that I understand. And yet it's such a flawed system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, I'm having trouble with my vehicle. Thanks, Louisiana.
Yeah. You want to tell that story real quick? Or I could recap because you've told it like twice.
I've told the story twice. I've been very confused and upset because my vehicle was a flood/junk titled vehicle in the state of Louisiana back in like 2019, something like that, 2019.
Yeah.
I bought the vehicle, I think summer of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Actually, I think it's like late spring. Doesn't matter. Bought the vehicle then. I've been driving it for 3.5 years.
Yeah, someone bought it from a junkyard, I assume, in Louisiana or some like auction or something, and then fixed it up in Kentucky, rebuilt a title, and then he bought it.
Yeah. So I have the vehicle, and Kentucky is like, yeah, this is a rebuilt flood title vehicle. There's not a single thing wrong with it. Not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But because Louisiana says that it's in a junkyard, still, Missouri won't recognize my vehicle as a legitimate operating vehicle, and I can't get it titled in Missouri.
Which is so weird because you can literally go to like most auto shops and just be like, hey, can you do a safety check?
Which thing? I did before I tried to register my vehicle.
Yeah, and it's like they have the VIN number on it.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, here's this document saying this VIN number for this car is in operating condition, road safe condition. Here's a title from the state of Kentucky that says, yes, this is an operating vehicle and it's licensed to this person and whatever. And insurance is being paid on. There's ample evidence that this vehicle, and it's like, I'm sure somewhere on the title there's probably like a clause or something that's like, yes, this is a rebuilt title, blah 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 blah. So if the like vehicle like DMV system could just have a single brain cell, or the people who work it could have literally any kind of say about like, oh yeah, this logically makes sense, I'll let you proceed with this. But no, it's like completely like gotta go by the book. You cannot stretch for anything.
Right, because like what's legal to drive in Kentucky is not the same as what's legal to drive in Missouri or even Louisiana. So the reason why Louisiana junked that vehicle is not because it was flooded necessarily. It's because the electronics in the vehicle could have been damaged by the flood.
Yeah,
and so that's why they junked the vehicle. Here's the thing. Someone in Kentucky buys a vehicle, gets it rebuilt, cool. It is a operating vehicle. The electronics are working. How do I know? I've been driving it for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And yet, just because Kentucky gave it a title, that doesn't affect what Louisiana said about the vehicle 3.5 years ago. Well, actually, at this point, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm being screwed over literally because of legalistic jargon that really has almost nothing to do with me.
When literally any person, any kind of judge or anyone with authority could literally just see the two documents and go, this one's newer and it's issued by the state of Kentucky, so it's like a real document and it's newer, so we'll go with this.
That's what they should do, but because of how the laws are written, that's not how it works. Yeah. Which is stupid. I understand it. It doesn't make it right.
Yep. Like I understand why people at the DMV in Missouri are not allowed to make
they can't do anything about it.
Decisions like that, because for people who don't know, the DMVs in the state of Missouri are actually like licensed third party like contractors.
Interesting.
So the state contracts out these like, hey, we need a DMV in this county. And so it goes to, I assume, I guess, the lowest bidder, technically, whoever will do it for the lowest amount of pay. And then whoever wins that auction or whatever, gets a building, gets all the legal stuff, sets up, the state will come in, set up the system, and then they have to train all their employees exactly to how the state has it. And then like basically everything that the DMV collects and does gets sent to the state verifies it, and then mails whatever title, driver's license, stuff like that, mails it to the actual person from the capital of the state, the like head DMV office that's actually run by the state. And it's just overall really dumb because the county DMV offices don't have access to DMV records without special permission.
So it just takes longer for things to get
Everything takes longer. And in Kentucky, your driver's license gets printed at the DMV and handed to you
same
day of.
Day.
Like
literally, it takes them like 5 minutes to print off a license.
Like, okay, I've experienced this when I got my military ID because my dad is a veteran, and so I have a military ID for insurance. When I get my military ID, they print out the piece of paper, I sign the license or the ID, and then they just laminate it.
Yeah.
Super simple, full color, completely legal, done by, some poor private that's been stuck with that job for probably way too long.
He's like, man, I'm itching for active duty.
There was Well, yeah, especially because it's a Navy office.
Oh,
so
gosh.
it's like I could be in like
Singapore.
Asia seeing the world,
Yeah.
but no, I'm stuck in the middle of Missouri, a
See,
state with no ocean access.
I guess I'm actually kind of upset with myself because it's like I wish I joined the military, but because of like what was going on in America at that time, it was
Yeah.
like, all right, you can join the military as soon as you get out of high school during the 2016 election.
Yeah.
So it was like either it's Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, and I was
And
like,
the word at
the world
time,
was going mad.
the word at the time was that Donald Trump was probably going to put us into a war.
And
That
then
was just the general kind of consensus on the matter. Even
there's
supporters
that.
were like, yeah, he's probably going to go to war with like Mexico or Russia.
there's that, but then there's also the added like thing. It's like, oh yeah, so like we could get Hillary Clinton in, but the problem with Hillary Clinton is that she has zero respect for any of the service members, and that is only like there's so much evidence to support that. All you have to do is literally listen to the woman.
Yeah, she wants to like defund the military and but also at the same time just be like,
She looks at them as just meat shields. She does not care whether you live or die.
yeah,
You are an
asset.
You are an asset. You are a tool that is supposed to be used and thrown away. That's how she views the military.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe me, literally just watch her like court case in which like she talks about the militaries, and she does not give a crap. I'm surprised that woman is not serving time in prison. But here's the thing: she's also a politician, so that's really what it is.
I'm honestly not surprised that any politician wouldn't think that way because they're literally in charge of making decisions for the military, basically. Not like strategic stuff, but they give the military their budget.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
all
like
this stuff,
she was
so,
responsible for like I can't remember exactly the whole story, but like a bunch of people died because she refused to like take action for something. And like I used to know the story pretty well, but it's been years, and I just am like so fed up with that. Anyways, we don't have to talk about that. It's
No.
Anyways,
Politics sucks.
yeah, it's just politics.
Speaking
We were
of
just talking about my
politics-
car.
Speaking of politics, Texas,
Way to go.
good job.
Here's the thing.
Here's what I'm going to say. Here is, in my opinion, the correct opinion. Okay, a lot of people might get mad at me because they're gonna think that I'm gonna say like, yeah, we need to make sure that our borders secure and stuff, and that's a touchy subject for a lot of people. Personally, I'm a conservative, so if you want to enter the country, you should probably try your best to do it legally, and the U.S. should probably try harder at speeding up the immigration process because it's just needlessly slow, like the DMV.
like everything that the government touches.
Yeah, exactly. Flashback to like 50% of Ronald Reagan speeches.
Turns out, okay, so I've had someone tell me it's like, oh yeah, the more you look into like Ronald Reagan, the more you realize that he was an absolute trash pan of a person. Like he was not a good president, and I'm like, really? And they're
Lies.
like, they're like, yeah, look up all the crap he did. I'm like, okay. They're like, yeah, he's responsible for the crack epidemic. He's responsible for like increased gun control, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to look into this because I've never heard of this.
Okay, I know that he was in office during a lot of crap that the CIA did.
Yeah,
I know that he was in office during like the 80s drug epidemic.
Mm.
I know the government and the CIA have a hand in that. And then I know that I don't know anything about like gun control, but pretty sure the like AR ban or whatever.
Oh, assault weapons
ban.
Yeah,
That was started in the 80s, I believe.
maybe. And like that's the thing. I don't know for sure, but
also that's not strictly just because of the president.
Yeah, like presidents get blamed for things that they had really no say in all the time.
But that doesn't mean he's innocent. But here's the thing. He was pro small government, and that's based.
Yeah, I can go with that because
like he's the guy who said like the worst thing you could ever hear is we're the government and we're here to help. Which also was it Kamala Harris who was like, as Ronald Reagan said, we're the government and we're here to help. Like she completely misquoted the guy. And it was
That's
really
hilarious.
funny. Yeah, she was like using it like it was a good thing. Like, yeah, the government's going to help. But the actual quote was like, this is the worst thing that you can ever hear.
You see, that's just proof that those in charge
Are not very smart.
well, they don't. Okay, this is what the government does. And I'm fully convinced that this is the kind of thing they do. They're like, all right, give me a PowerPoint presentation on like just simple things I should know. And like they don't take notes and they have the like attention span of a gnat. So like they remember like 4 lines of something. Or like Joe Biden's like, yeah, I was there when they built the Great Wall of China. I buried children in that tunnel and ate crayons with Dr. Phil. Like, because I feel like it's like there's shreds of truth in what they say, except for Joe Biden. I think he's completely out of his mind. But then it's like people like you and me who have like been paying attention just the smallest bit because we're middle American boys that just, I don't know, like things done efficiently.
Yeah.
And so when we recognize a discrepancy in what someone is saying, we're like, hold on, where did that original thread come from? Boop, 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 boop. Oh, they're full of crap.
Yeah.
Every time.
Anyway, we started at Texas. Here's the true and based opinion. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. State rights are pretty legit.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Democrats are going to go, no. You got to listen to the federal government. Hold on. Think about this. State rights is what gave Colorado weed.
It's true.
State rights is what gave Maryland gay marriage.
That's also
State
true.
rights has done so much for the Democrats.
Yeah.
So as a Democrat, do not come after me saying you don't want state rights, because you most definitely do, because you've benefited from state rights probably more than Republicans have.
Probably, yeah. It's like what people don't realize is that the role of the federal government is to basically just de-escalate situations.
Yeah.
But it's evolved and turned into a monster of control. It's like we need to micromanage every state, which is A, not productive, B, a waste of resources, and C, not really fair to that state, because it's like, let's say somebody in I don't know everything about government. It's been a long time since I've had like a refresher course, but like, let's say somebody that's not even part of your state, or someone that doesn't really know how it is in your area, they decide, oh, we're going to make a law that needs to be observed and respected throughout all the states, or even just in this particular state. Hey, you can't blah, blah, blah. And you're like, what? Like, that's my living, or like, that's how I'm able to do this. Like,
perfect example, the UN.
oh gosh, yeah.
The UN, here's how it's a collection of countries that honestly at this point have been, their rights have been reduced to pretty much the same that the US states have. Like, it's ridiculously, I'm going to throw that washing machine into a valley and then just obliterate it with an A10 Warthog. It got scared. But anyway, it's mocking me now. I know
Is
that
it
you guys
going to
can
even
hear
pick up on the microphone?
Not anymore. Anyway, so okay, what was I saying? The UN. Like, let's take like Germany and Poland, right?
Yeah.
The equivalents of Germany and Poland would be like California and Nevada.
Okay.
Right? So Germany decides, hey, we want to do this new tax. And the German people vote for it and they go, okay, cool. That particular tax, if it was imposed in Poland, be absolutely terrible because of this is a hypothetical situation. So like say it's some tax on the export of some certain product or something. But actually that product happens to be like Poland's #1 export or something. You've just destroyed Poland's economy.
Or
basically.
or at least set them back to the point to where it's like, all right, all this progress we made means nothing now.
Yeah. So the fact that they're separate countries and they can make separate legislation as long as it's in line with the overall UN legislation, which is very broad, it's like it works. It just works. And the thing is, they know it works. They know that they don't want some collection of people from all across this entire continent to make decisions on this one specific area of said continent. And America is no different. Like it literally this is the correlation. Having people in Virginia make choices on some kind of weapons ban or alcohol tax or whatever for like Utah makes no sense. In fact, it makes so much sense, so little sense. It'd be the equivalent of like France making a decision about like Ukraine's like military
Your
choices.
trenches are 3 inches too deep. The enemy can't shoot you now. You need to make it fair.
But it's like, which I don't even think Ukraine is actually in the UN. So
I have no idea.
Or not the UN. I mean, the European Union, the EU.
Honestly,
so it's like, just people, please recognize that the United States is an entire freaking continent of people, and it needs at least some level of individuality because we live in such drastic different, like, okay, imagine a bunch of people from the East Coast go, we need a water tax. Everyone on the West Coast who's going, hold on, we hardly even have water, is
especially
freaking
in Arizona.
out.
Yeah, Arizona would just cease to exist. Well, not really, but
like,
here's the thing, though.
State rights are epic.
You could even look at the state of New York alone. When people think of New York, they think about New York City. New York City is a very strict city. New York State is a very strict state. They have a lot of laws deciding what you can and cannot have, what you can and cannot do. But here's the thing. Although the people in the city see it as a good thing, whatever, don't care. I hate that city. I've been there and I hate it. There's things that I love about it. I'm getting on a tangent. Doesn't matter. Here's the thing. The people in rural New York, like farmers, because believe it or not, there's a lot of farmland in New York.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not in the city because why would you farm in the city? They have to play by the same rules as those who live in the city.
Yeah.
There are some caveats here and there, but for the most part, yeah, that's how it works. So because people in the city want to live a certain way, people out in the country have to suffer the consequences, even though they're scratching their head being like, hey, that doesn't benefit me.
Yeah.
That actually makes my life harder.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, even within a state, there's those drastic differences. So it's like, I think cities need to, I think when it comes to like states, if a city wants a law, sure, but restrict it only to that city.
I mean, yeah, you can have an ordinance and specific like county laws or stuff
and like
that.
those
and
exist,
they do,
but
because mayors, especially mayors of big cities, will make weird decisions about things, and then the rest of the state is like, we're not following that, and they're like, okay, cool, I don't really have jurisdiction over your city, so you can not do my weird thing. But anyway,
but yeah, it's like, I heard something, and it's like, I don't know how true it is, but from the last time I've looked at a map regarding this, because he said there's no such thing as blue states, only blue cities.
Oh, who said this?
I've heard it on
A lot of people.
A lot of people say it, but I heard it from a guy who was on Warrior Poet Society, which you look into it. They're pretty cool. Good. I believe the guy is Christian. Yeah, the founder's Christian. He's a cool guy. But yeah, he said there's no
blue states.
Blue states, just blue cities. Yeah. And the last time I looked at a map,
you look at a county map of an election.
Just true.
It's just true.
Yeah, it's like you have these hot spots of blue. Granted, there's a lot of people there, a lot of stupid people. I'm sorry. A lot of people who grew up
in cities and so are detached from the reality of the rest of the nation.
Not even just the rest of the nation, the rest of the world. The rest of the world does not operate how their city works.
Yeah.
And you see that even with even people that live out in the country can be very detached from how the rest of the world works. Because they're like, well, in America, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's great. But here's the thing. That's not reality. We live in a very privileged nation. Like, the chances of us getting attacked in public by our own government or another government is very low. Like, extremely low. The chances of us being attacked by even wild animals is low.
Yeah.
Because that's an actual thing people have to worry about throughout the rest of the world. Here, it's not so much of a problem. We are very privileged to not worry about things that is a common threat. And that's a problem because now you have generations and generations of people that are like, well, I don't see why you need a gun to defend yourself because Jesus will take care of me. It's like, you do realize that just saying Jesus does not save you from a physical threat. Because if you die and you go up to heaven and God's like, yeah, you came here early because you refuse to acknowledge the reality that you live in a fallen world.
Or even if people don't like that answer, basically carrying a weapon on yourself for self-defense is really just insurance against your own ability to not recognize that the Lord is trying to tell you to do something else. So it's insurance against disobedience. If you're like
some of that.
If you're like, oh, I'm gonna go to this place, and God's like, no, don't do that, and you just don't listen, you could be in danger.
There's something even beyond that a lot of Christians will not talk about, but they need to. It is so important that they talk about this because Western Christianity is so far
from the church and Acts and stuff.
Yeah, it's so far away from what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's supposed to be a violent religion. We're not. Religion of peace.
Not at all.
But to have peace, you need to be able to withhold. You're supposed to have peace. You're going to have to be willing to do very violent acts to keep the peace. That doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but for those who have served in even the military or the police, you recognize to keep peace means that you have to have the strength to keep peace. You can't just wave a flag and say, well, love is love, because that doesn't work. People don't care what you think.
No.
You don't have the same mindset as somebody else. If they want to hurt you, they're going to hurt you, and it doesn't matter. Jesus said in the Bible, hey, carry a sword. If you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. Does that not apply anymore?
I'm looking it up.
Yeah, it's some people have this conviction to not carry a weapon. That is fine. If you don't want to carry, don't.
Luke 22, 30, verse 36 through 38. But now he said, take your money in a traveler's bag, and if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. And Jesus, that's quoted from Jesus.
Yeah.
He said, buy a sword.
He doesn't he's not telling you to look for a fight. He's trying to tell you guys, hey, you need to be prepared to like move around and defend yourself because this world is nuts.
It's, but here's the thing. People go with, they hear Christians be like, oh yeah, you should carry a gun and stuff or whatever your weapon of choice is. Because I guess it does kind of depend on where you live.
Right.
But they hear Christians say that and they go like, but also, you know, you should love everyone because now even the, what did they call them in Jesus' time? Jews, not Israelis.
Gentiles.
Yeah, the Gentiles. Even now the Gentiles are God's people and stuff. Yeah. And so that's why, not since Jesus has God said, Israel, go out and fight this nation.
Well, it's like, and like usually the counter argument I hear from that passage we just heard is, we're also told that we do not war against flesh and blood, but principalities
like, the powers of
this world,
of evil, and whatever.
So it's like, that is true. That does not stop the crackhead from eating your baby.
So here's the thing. It's yes, carry a sword, but exactly when are you going to use the sword?
Yeah, don't look for a fight.
Yeah, don't look for a fight. But also, there's a point where you are in danger, a great enough threat that you're like, I'm going to use my weapon. And you have to stop and go, hold on, Jesus, is this the move? Is this the move I need to, if someone's lunging at you with a knife, you're not going to be able to think about it. But when I first started carrying anything, even like a knife, I was like, well, exactly when am I going to use this? Like exactly when is too far that it's like, okay, I need to make a step.
Right.
And so you could sit all day and draw lines of like, okay, this situation I'll use, this situation I won't. I kind of decided that like I didn't really want to use a weapon if I wasn't like, if I was by myself getting like robbed.
Oh, it'd be better for you to just run away or just
run away or just be like, you know what? Here's the money out of my wallet.
Right. Like,
hey, chill out. Here's my money that I have on me. Please be kind enough to not steal my ID. And stuff. Like, I'm going to cooperate because I'm by myself. Right. As soon as there's someone else with me, you better step back because I will defend that other person and their safety with everything I have.
And that's another thing to bring up is if someone is robbing you, it may be more beneficial to be like, hey, I'm going to help you out. Because recognizing that someone was pushed to a point where the only option they see is robbing someone, they're in a bad place.
Yeah.
And so if you're able to be like, hey, I will just give you what you need. Tell me what you need and I will provide it.
Yeah.
If you do that to someone, that can change their entire life.
Yeah.
They may never fall back on crime again.
Yeah.
And they may make a mistake, but here's the thing. You gave that somebody an opportunity to change their entire life because you showed not only mercy, but also generosity in the face of threat.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's just and then also using your wisdom and talking to the Holy Spirit and being like, should I go? I do DoorDash. And sometimes I'm DoorDashing in bad areas of town. And I don't like it. And I'm very happy that I'm carrying a big stick. As I'm now going to call weapons because that's just freaking metal as heck.
Here's the thing, you're not supposed to carry when you work for them. They have They have like different rules and whatever.
See, I never read it.
but
I don't know if that's a thing or not, but also like
to my
they're not
understanding,
going
when
to
I
prosecute
checked,
me.
yeah, it's like unless you,
And
yeah,
they don't know what I mean by a big stick.
it's just a flashlight.
I got a flashlight with one strong heck of a strobe on it.
It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. And obviously, because I think a lot about like self-defense, like I'm never going to like defend myself if I'm on someone else's property.
If you can run away, run away.
Until I am off their property, I will not stand and defend myself.
You always have to consider, it's like, do you have the time?
Yeah.
Because like you may not be given a choice, but at the same time, it's like I will always prefer to run away from a situation rather than hold my ground. If I have to hold my ground, it's because like I've been given no other option.
Yeah.
Or there's somebody that needs defending.
Yeah.
If there's someone that needs to be defended, or I've been given no other choice, that's my options. Because there was a time in which like this was like 3 years ago.
Huh.
I was like filling up my gas tank at a gas station. It was just done filling up. I put the thing up, and this guy, full sprint, runs out of the gas station charging at me. It's not an employee. It's not anyone I know. And they're just yelling at me.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I had probably a solid 5 seconds to react. And my mind went to, okay, either A, I'm going to have to run away, get in my car and just start and go, or I'm going to have to pull a gun on this guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'd rather just drive away. I'd rather not shoot a guy.
Yeah. Seriously.
And so I was fortunate enough that I was quick to get in my car and leave, because that was probably the scariest moment I've been in I want to say my life, because it's like I have never experienced somebody running at me full sprint out of a gas station yelling at me.
Yeah, that's weird.
It was horrifying.
So anyway, as I was saying, there's sometimes I'm in bad areas of town, or even sometimes if I'm hanging out with my friends, I'll be in a bad area of town, and it's creepy, it's unsettling, it's not very well lit. There's people everywhere. And
Missouri is known for like petty crimes that are like very dangerous.
Yeah, Missouri cities are like notorious. Like St. Louis is one of the most. Actually, I think it is considered the most dangerous cities in the nation.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's like
it's up there, but I don't know if it's the top, but it's definitely up there.
It's one or two. Everyone always says like, "Oh, Detroit is the number one city for crime," but I think what they're going off of is number of homicides or other like murders and stuff.
Right.
And so Detroit has less of that, but I think they have more like property damage and theft than St. Louis. But
I don't even know why anyone lives there anymore.
Detroit?
Yeah.
Both, actually. There's nothing in St. Louis. But they so like Missourian cities are just not the safest, especially for petty crimes, or even murder. But it's like there have been times where like I'm freaked out and I'm like, oh, I need to get gas. Jesus, should I stop at this gas station or should I go to this gas station? And I make I listen to him and stuff, and or sometimes I'm like, should I go down this street? Because it's like what the map is telling me, but I'm looking down it and it looks scary. And I'm like, so like, Jesus, should I go down this street? And he'll be like, no. Or sometimes he'll be like, yes, it's fine. And sometimes what's the scariest thing ever?
What?
When you hear from Holy Spirit, like, make sure you can grab your big stick. Like, make sure, like,
yeah.
move your jacket aside. That kind of thing. And it's like, why?
He's like warning you ahead of time, hey, someone may make a bad decision here, so just be ready to respond to that bad decision.
Or sometimes there have been other times where I'm like freaked out and I'm like, I don't want to be here at all. And Holy Spirit's like, hey, like, don't act suspicious here. Like, don't be ready.
Just relax.
Yeah. Relax, be loose. Which, honestly, when I'm in like scarier parts of town, I carry my DoorDash bag. Even if I normally don't carry my DoorDash bag because it's kind of a pain to take the food in and out of there. If I'm in a bad part of town, I always carry it because it's like legitimately like gangs and like organized crime or like other like thieves and stuff. They respect delivery drivers because they're just doing their job and they're serving like their cousin.
No part in
or whatever. Or yeah, obviously they're not from this part of town. They're a delivery driver.
Yeah, and like that's something that I try to keep in mind about like the people that live there. Because like I was fortunate enough to not grow up in like bad places and towns and whatnot. Like there's like one place, and I was like when I was a little kid living in California, it was a little rough. Like there's a guy that stole the radio out of my mom's car.
That was also just kind of a thing in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why, but it happened. Yeah. But other than that, I've been very blessed to be in very safe places. But I think the majority of those people, they're not looking for a fight. They're just trying to make ends meet. They're just trying to like make it to the next month or whatever.
Yeah, people who are like stealing from you, they're just trying to get by. People who are like maybe staring at you usually are just scared of you.
And it's like I wasn't even trying to reference like people that steal. I'm just meaning like people in bad areas of town are usually not up to anything bad.
No.
But they're usually a victim of something that's going on.
Yeah.
Usually it's something that they did to themselves, and it's hard to move on from that.
Perfect example. Mobile home parks. If you DoorDash, you probably know delivering to mobile homes is either the best experience you'll have DoorDashing or the worst experience you'll have DoorDashing. Okay. Some of the like cruddy houses with bad lighting are worse. And sometimes delivering to really rich neighborhoods is better. But like, on average, like your regular order, like I've gotten some of my highest tips from, people who live in mobile homes. I've also gotten some of the worst tips and some of the worst treatment from people in mobile homes. And I've also had people that were super nice in mobile homes. Like I delivered to I don't know if there are a couple or siblings or what, but these two people that were in a mobile home, and they were just like standing out in front of their mobile home with a flashlight waiting for me to get there with their food, and they were super nice. And they like took the food and they thanked me and they tipped like pretty good. And they're super chill. Other times it's like some, mom that's probably drunk or high or both or whatever yells at their, 12-year-old who's really shaken up to just go pick up the food from me. And it's just a very uncomfortable and feels slightly dangerous situation. And it's just very annoying, and they don't tip me at all. So it's hit and miss, but it's a perfect example of how people in impoverished areas are. Either they're very kind and generous and understanding
because they understand what it's like to be a delivery driver, because they've done that, or they are doing that.
Yeah. Or they're very grumpy people who feel stolen from life.
Yeah, you have a lot of that victim mentality, and I'm not saying that that's all you're gonna find, because like you find victim mentality even in the rich neighborhoods.
Oh, absolutely.
But
In fact, there's a lot of people who are rich because they feel like they were stolen from, and so they worked their butt off to get stuff.
right, you do have that, but it's like that's something that's like really, it is so messy living with a victim mentality mindset, and you could see it in some people who are like always acting as if they're a victim of something. And it's like, how long are you going to just act like a victim? Like, life just happens. Like, sure, someone did something wrong to you. You could let that, like, mess you up for the rest of your life, or you can just get over it. And saying just get over it is not an easy thing.
No.
Because that sounds very insensitive.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like, there's a point in which you're just going to have to bite the bullet and really look at the situation, really, like, look at yourself and be like, hey, is how I'm responding to this thing appropriate? Am I directing myself in a direction in which I'm going to be able to move forward and grow? Or am I holding myself back to just kind of simmer here forever?
Yeah. So here's some wisdom. And I think, okay, we're on like 47 minutes. Here's some wisdom. Every single like problem that someone has, like every single like negative attribute you could give someone it's a coin with two sides, but it's the same thing. So entitlement and a victim mentality are two sides of the same thing.
Right.
Either you feel like you're entitled to something that you don't have, or maybe something that you do have, but if it gets taken away from you, you're very upset because you feel entitled to that thing. Or you feel like something's been stolen from you, or you've been handed a bad hand, or life's done you wrong, which is just you feel like you're entitled to something that you do not have, or maybe you do have, but you'll be upset if it gets taken away. It's the same thing, just one is very like posh, kind of usually is associated with people who have money or have things, and is usually manifests very bratty. And the other side is more usually associated with impoverished people and usually manifests itself in some level of depression or stress and frustration.
And a lot of those things are just ailments of the mind.
Yeah.
Like you're being tormented. Like there's always and trying to explain this to somebody that A, either doesn't know God, or B, doesn't believe in the power of God is nigh on impossible. But for every physical ailment, there's a spiritual thing behind it.
Yeah.
So like depression, for example, there's spiritual things going on.
Yeah.
And it's not always very simple, but it's usually pretty easy to pinpoint.
It's not something that can't be revealed or understood,
So like you could medicate that, and some people, they find a lot of success with medicating that. But here's the thing, that spiritual aspect of depression doesn't just go away because you gave yourself medicine.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lingering problem if you do not resolve that problem.
And if you don't subscribe to spiritual things, it's like
it's going to be a constant thing that you have to fight.
Well, here's the thing. There's another term for it that people who aren't Christians use, and it's just like these depressive cycles, they call them, where it's every once in a while you forget that you're not depressed anymore, and you go like, oh yeah, this stuff sucks, and you just stop being positive. And you just start believing that your life sucks or whatever, and you get right back into the depression. psychologists and people who aren't Christian call those like depressive cycles or whatever.
Right. And even Christians fall
Almost
into
like
that.
it's like an illness, but Christians believe that it's the enemy and Satan or whatever.
Right. Like there's physical things that attribute to why you're feeling that way, but you're right. It is a spiritual thing.
It's a spiritual thing. And the like thing that we're talking about is like documented in real like scientific documents. It's just not explained as a spiritual thing. It's
right.
the enemy coming in and lying to you about how much your life sucks, and you forget that, oh hey, this isn't truth,
or like you're beating yourself up over something that you have no control over.
Yeah. And it's like you can just kind of let go of it and go, no,
because like
God has it, or that stuff's not even true, I'm just overthinking it, or
definitely. Whatever. And like I've dealt with depression a lot. And like I could even tell, like even this past week or two, I could feel like myself slipping into like bad thought processes, and like I'll catch myself mid thought understanding my thoughts are lying to me, this is not true.
Yeah
But it's like I'm able to express, hey God, this is how I'm feeling. And it's stuff that like traditionally speaking, as like someone that grew up in the church, these aren't thoughts that you can pray out loud. And like if you prayed these thoughts to God publicly, people would probably cast you out of the church because you're like, oh, you're a terrible person, you don't love God. It's like, no, God wants you to express your feelings, even if it's like negative or bad or like dissatisfied with what's going on. It's not necessarily complaining to God. It's more of like God cares about how you feel, and He wants you to be honest with Him, even if it's something that seems taboo. Because I don't blame God for the things I've been through. It's not God's fault that things have happened the way they happened.
So that's actually something that I really push very hard in the youth ministry that I'm a leader at. I really push the kids to understand that environment really is a safe environment. Like, it's a lot of churches say, oh, we're no judgment. But then someone says that they're suicidal and everyone like
treats them differently,
covers their kids' ears. And it's like, chill. Chill. Or like, oh, I have, I'm addicted to weed or drinking, and all the Baptists go like, ugh.
Yeah, you get immediately treated differently, even though they just said not even 5 minutes ago that they're not judging you. Like they're entirely judging you.
Like one time, we had this thing where, there was 1 week where a lot of the we were talking about like humility and like sharing our sins with like one another and stuff. And we weren't saying like, oh, you got to announce this publicly that you struggle with that. We were just like, with people you trust and our leaders and you trust to be wise and stuff, you should share the things that you're going through so that they can help you and they pray for you. And it's just so evident in the Bible that that's what Christians are supposed to do. And so we were talking about that, and there was a whole group of teenagers that really just personally felt convicted that they should share some of their experiences. It's stuff that they struggled with and stuff, and just really be honest and real with people and be vulnerable. And that helped them a lot. And no one like judged them, because there was so many of them that they went like together, and it was like people that if you were new, you would have thought, oh, that's a very healthy Christian. Like they looked like very healthy spiritual people. But they're like, oh yeah, I struggle with, whatever basic, honestly,
whatever
I call them
thing.
basic sins, because it's like, this is literally like people were like, oh yeah, I struggle with this, blah, blah, blah. I struggle with that. And there was probably like 5 kids who did that. And then I like kind of raised my hand and I was like, hey, can I speak? And the pastor was like, yeah, go ahead, Josiah. And I was like, okay. I don't know if I'm the only one who noticed this, but like so like I was like, so I've been like a leader of prayer groups, and I've had a lot of people come to me and be like, hey, I'm struggling with this thing, whatever. Here's something I've noticed in the last like 6 months that I've been a leader. Everyone has the same problems.
Yeah, and it's like
Everyone has some kind of addiction.
yeah.
Everyone has some kind of sexual sin. Everyone has some kind of like spiritual like thing that they struggle to receive from God, or they struggle to feel love from God, or that they struggle to be close to God, or they struggle to like know how real like prayer is or whatever.
Absolutely.
Everyone struggles with the same stuff.
Yes.
Like, I'm so tired of people being like, oh, this, I know this is so terrible, but like, and just like, please, like, accept me for who I am. Like, but
I've not met a
struggle-
single Christian that has not dealt with this.
Yeah, it's like
at some degree.
It's like I'm a male, so I'm a leader of boys, and I've had some of them be like, hey, like, I'm really struggling with like pornography and stuff. And I'm like, welcome to the club. Everyone, every male.
Because like men will
I've met one guy who hasn't, and I'm like, dude, you are so blessed.
like
One person.
stay innocent.
Like, I know so many men who have come and talked to me about struggling with pornography. Everyone does. At least males. It's less common in females.
Not
but
true,
still,
actually.
it's marginally less.
It's
like if it's 90% of men struggle with pornography at some point in their life, it's like 75% of women.
That's a funny thing growing up, because like that's been a problem for me for over a decade, and it's this constant struggle of like understanding like why this is a repeating problem.
Yeah.
What's going on here? Because like there'll be times in which like, all right, this is not really a problem for me right now, and then I slip right back into it, and it's something that it's hard to break, but it's worth the fight.
Yeah.
And you have to recognize that it's not just you fighting it; it's you relying on God to provide that thing. Because like when you understand that addiction is rooted in a lie about what you believe about yourself, or even what you believe about God. Usually it's a combination of both. Yep. And one of them is usually God is not going to provide this for you. And the other one is you're not good enough.
Yeah.
And it's always a combination of those two, or like some variation of those two.
Yeah. Some variation of God's not perfect and he didn't make me perfect, which also is just God's not perfect.
Right. And it's always something like that. And it's really sad, but understanding that, because growing up, the church always was like, you cannot talk about this at all. We're not even going to look at the book Song of Solomon. So it's like, it's such a taboo topic. And then like you have so many like people that end up leaving the church because they're like, well, the church is not going to let me have any fun. It's like, it's not that. It's like they are screwing you over because they're refusing to talk about the hard things that need to be talked about, and then basically demonizing the people that struggle. Yeah.
And it's like, I know a person who's like, they struggle with stuff, and they struggle with a lot of like self-worth stuff. And it's like, what's also funny is that I'm saying like it's one person. There's probably half a dozen people that are like that I know of. But they've been so hurt by the church because they go like, oh yeah, I struggle with this. I'm a monster. Yeah. I'm a terrible demonic child. And I'm like, okay. First of all,
stop going to a Baptist church.
Don't call yourself a child anymore, because that's weird. But it's like, no, like everyone's going through that. like everyone's a sinner, and we all got our problems, and we all got our vices and whatever, and our addictions, and it's just like, hey, if we actually talked about this, people wouldn't be scared that they're gonna be shunned, or that their pride's gonna be hurt, or like whatever,
or feel like they're not adequate enough to even go to church.
Yeah.
The amount of people that I know, granted it's not many, but they're like, I will not go to church because God hates me. Yeah. I know at least 2.
Yeah.
And I know a few others that are like, there's just no point anymore. Like, just everything is meaningless, which
it's just like, yeah, I'm hopeless and made incorrectly, or something like that. Like I'm broken and I cannot be fixed. And it's just like, oh yeah, you're broken. You're broken because you struggle with these like 5 things. Okay, well, here's an example, nameless person that I personally know. They struggle with everything you have, plus 5 more things that honestly are way bigger problems in God's eyes. And I don't tell them that part, but but it's like, and 5 more things that are also bad. And guess what? When you see them at church, you probably think they're perfect.
Yeah, and like there's so many,
they know that church is going to help them, and so they go to church, and they try their best to worship, they try their best to pray, they try their best to get prayer, and it's like like the people who are really good at church, the good Christians, either are faking it, completely, utterly faking that they're perfect or something, because they still believe that they need to be perfect to be able to be accepted in church, or they recognize how messed up they are and how many problems they have, that they recognize that they need to be in church to get better. And but there's so many people that just believe like, oh, I'm too far gone, I can't go to church because it's some elite club of good people.
Yeah, like, and I have coworkers that are like, they don't believe in God, but they also say that they won't go to church because they'll just combust. Granted, I'm sure that's just a joke, but that whole like idea of like, they don't feel accepted because of who they are. Yeah. Like, because they smoke weed or because they do this or that. And it's like, I don't think that society has such a bad perception of who God is.
Yeah.
To the point to where it's like, who they think God is the enemy. Like, their perception of what God is actually Satan.
Yeah. So
if that makes sense, if I worded that correctly, because that sounded weird. So in my mind.
For everyone who doesn't see what he's saying is that people are taught that God is the judge of right and wrong, and they hear that and they think that means that God is accusing them of their sins. But God's not the accuser. He's the judge. He weighs the good and evil. Satan is the accuser. Satan's the one that's like, you've done this, you've done that, you've done this, blah, 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 blah. You're a bad person. This is why you should be, judged as, a rebel and should be, sent to hell or whatever. And it's like, God hears that, here's the devil's case against you, and goes, okay, so here's all these bad things you did. Cool. Oh, it looks like you signed up for the extra insurance, aka having all of your sins bought by Jesus. So we'll just, oh, look at that. You told someone about Jesus one time, and that's the only thing left on this page. I guess you're in. Good job, boy.
It's this weird thing that people have this messed up perception of God, where he's this angry person that's gonna that hates you for having problems, instead of recognizing that he's the one that despite all your problems, despite all these things and issues you have, he still desperately wants to have a personal relationship with you. Not that you know him, but that you know each other. Because like he already knows you, but he wants like that back and forth conversation. He doesn't want it to just be like a one direction kind of thing.
Yeah. He's not Santa Claus, nor does he want to be treated as Santa Claus.
No.
And it's like people hear like, oh yeah, God's a just judge. Like he is perfect judgment. And people think that in their Western brain, or honestly, probably everyone in the world hears that and goes, oh, so that means that I will pay for every bad thing I've done. Which, yeah, technically, yeah, you will technically. But turns out someone already paid your bail, and that's Jesus. Yeah. Already paid your bail, already paid, like, if your sins are debts, which the Bible calls them debts.
Yeah, and like
Jesus already paid for your debts.
It's not really an excuse literally to keep doing
erased. It's not an excuse to keep doing it, but it's erased. And so it's, God is a just God. He follows his rules completely, and he does not bend his rules ever. What people don't recognize is that the legal system of God has a buyout system where it's like, hey, these things that I've done, these sins against you, I can make it up to you. You know, like if your car gets impounded, you can pay to get it back. Like that kind of thing. Or you can pay to your bail. Or in the olden days, or at least the olden days in video games like Red Dead Redemption, you can pay your wanted, your what is that called? Your bounty. You can pay your bounty and it will clear any like, so police won't arrest you because you paid.
I'm not sure if that's how it worked back then, but
maybe that's how it does in Red Dead Redemption. So it's like, that's how it works in like the heavenly legal system. But then it also says like only something that is perfect can pay for your sins. But Jesus was perfect and paid for all your sins as long as you accept it. It's kind of like one of those like weird legal things where it's like, you ever have someone like write up a bill of sale?
Yeah.
Where it's like they take a piece of scrap paper and they just go like, this person sold this thing for this amount of money, signature. And they're like, here you go, write your signature on it. And it's just a scrap piece of paper, but it's a legal document.
Technically speaking, yes. Yes, it is.
It's kind of the same way with Jesus. It's like, he's like, just say, I accept the terms and conditions of you buying my sins. Terms being, you know, actually, I'm not going to get into that because I'm not entirely sure I know it exactly.
Be my best friend. We will have soft tacos.
It's like basically just like, shake my hand and I'll pay for your debts. And it's
like being a Christian is a lot easier than people
being
perceive it to
saved is a lot easier than people think.
The problem is that humanity has this tendency, and you can see it clearly everywhere you look. Mankind overcomplicates everything. Every single thing that could be simple is overcomplicated by us for really no good reason.
Now that we've talked about politics and Jesus and stuff for an hour,